career in commerce, in particular, career in analytics and data science and product management in the e-commerce sector. We have with us Mr. Lionel Pinto, who is a manager in the business intelligence and analytics department of Ajio Reliance. He will be talking to us today regarding career option in these fields. We'll ask him questions about the career choices that you have in these fields, also the kind of work that he's doing in his current role. If you have any questions, please ask us in the chat box. So without much ado, I will give the floor to Lionel. Please introduce yourself, Lionel, and then I'll ask questions.
Hey, hi. Hello, Biswajit. Thanks for your brief and neat introduction. Presume you can hear me.
Yes.
I'll keep the phone as close to
Yes, I can
myself
hear
so
you.
that I'm clear. Okay, thank you. So, yeah, hello, guys. Hello, everyone, to all those who are listening. So, yes, currently I'm working as a manager of business intelligence at Ajio.com, which is a fashion and lifestyle brand, and it has an app as well as it has a site. So my role is actually, even though it's business analytics, I would probably first talk a bit of the role, and then probably maybe I can expand on top of that. So in analytics, what actually we do is, there's a traditional definition of what people think business intelligence or business analyst. A business analyst is like the base role in analytics, and there's one particular thought that goes in terms of what a business analyst is someone who actually looks at data. He has all the numbers at his disposal. Someone who actually helps the organization create all the necessary dashboards, reports, ensures there are, the data pipelines are flowing correctly, the data is accurate, and provides an interface as well as a system, largely an automated system, which teams across the organization, from planning to marketing to product to buying, operations, teams across the organization consume. I'm giving you example from an e-commerce setup. The definition is largely similar for a non-e-commerce setup as well. So that's a traditional definition of a business analyst, and from there onwards you obviously graduate into different roles. That's the way people are looked at, but that's more, I would say, more of a bookish role. Uh, Probably there might be organizations out there who look at this particular role in the way that I mentioned. But at least for us, for me, and for that matter, even to my to my colleagues in organizations in e-commerce, in other organizations within e-commerce, that definition has changed drastically. People no longer look at a business analyst, or for that matter, the business intelligence team, to be the whose definition is ensuring that data is available and ensuring that the data is accurate. That's an extremely narrow role and definition of business analyst. Of course, that's one definition. So that you can say is like one building block, but it just begins after it ends. So people look up to you. One is for insights in terms of how the business is doing,
Right.
and saying that why have things improved today compared to yesterday, why have things deteriorated today compared to yesterday, what's working, why is our average basket value reducing, why is our conversion rate increasing, how much revenue can we project in the next month, those kinds of aspects. So that's the second role where people look up to you to answer the question why, right? That's the
Right.
second role, why, what, etc. um, and so over here, one is insights, giving insights to people. That's the second role. So even now organizations have moved away from that role as well. People in business intelligence are looked, not just to give insights and recommendations to other teams, which is like part two of the role. People actually look up to you to tell what has to be done, saying that let us do this, let us get this activity executed,
Right.
let us look at this particular approach to solve this
Yeah.
problem.
The role
And
has
then
evolved over the time, right?
exactly,
It
the
used
role
to be
has
very different
evolved.
like 10 years back.
Exactly, very very evolved. So the role has evolved to such an extent that business intelligence team now own metrics. They own metrics, and they do activities to ensure that metrics improve. It could be any activity: retention, improving your Play Store rating, improving your SLS. We have service level agreements
Right.
when it comes to operations, saying that I will deliver this product to you at your doorstep by 6 7 days. That's an SLA. So business intelligence teams work with other teams in an organization. They work together in a pod structure where you have got one representative from each team who come together and solve business problems and improve metrics. So
Yeah.
you got to attempt to solve business problems through various experiments,
Right.
improve metrics, and then you got to report those metrics.
Right.
So you
Right.
just cannot do an activity and say this is done. You got to report and you got to constantly innovate, and
Right.
which I think is a very good role. So
Right.
basically, a business intelligence analyst now currently is actually a growth hacker,
Yes.
to be very precise with you.
Right. Right.
So it has evolved. So I think currently it has stood at that point. And
Okay.
of course, business and intelligence people, they definitely work, they're very well versed with all the tools.
Yes.
It could be Google Analytics, it could be BigQuery, it could be R, it could be R for some organizations, it is Python for some other organizations. And of course, you've got tools like Kibana, all those things. So that's also bare minimum. Uh, these people in these teams, they also dip their hands into some data science models. I mean, those models are largely plug and play,
Right. Right.
for most of us, right? So they
Yeah.
do dip into their hands. But
Yeah.
the thing is, the process that I told you, I think is something that a business analyst goes through. So the
Yes.
first one, it is more about dashboarding, reporting, understanding data.
Right.
Then it's about insights, maybe in the second year. And third year onwards, it's about actually doing experiments to increase growth for
Right.
the organization.
Right.
So I
Daniel,
think that's
just
that's a
to
role.
interrupt
Yes,
you here, I'd like to
sure.
interrupt you here. So we'll go into the details of the work that you're doing. But before that, let me ask you these questions. Can you take us through your journey, career journey? Like, how did you get
Okay.
into analytics? I think it will be very interesting for our viewers.
Okay, so good question. So, I mean, you being my colleague, you might
Yes,
know
I know you
very
very
well
well,
my
but
journey.
yes, for our
Agree. I mean,
viewers, can
for a
you?
very long time. It's been
Yes,
8 years, I guess. Not
yes,
eight, actually, 10. I mean,
yes, 10
we
years back.
joined our masters in 2000. It's actually
Yes,
been 10 years, one
yes,
decade, very, very long.
that's true.
So, yeah, and so how it started was that I think I got into Madras School of Economics, where we did our masters.
Yes,
I got into because of my keen interest in finance and economics, and then I took financial economics. My idea was to get into asset management, to the uh, mutual fund industry, to be an asset manager, a fund manager, something like that. Eventually, after 10, 15 years down the lane. But unfortunately, or today I should say fortunately, I'll tell you why fortunately, that did not happen. One company came in that domain, in the core domain, but they ended up taking none, which means they didn't
right,
end up taking me either. And then kind of, fortunately, companies came in. I wasn't keen, but a company called 247.ai came
right,
to our organization, to our college. Then they ended up recruiting me. I spent a couple of years over there. That was from 2012 to 2014. Uh, Almost the first one and a half year of it, I honestly didn't enjoy.
mm-hmm,
And then probably my manager actually, he was actually a leader, not a manager. So
mm-hmm,
he ended up motivating me to take interest in whatever I'm doing, even though I'm not interested. And then I did take interest in the things that I was doing, and I started liking it.
mm-hmm.
And then from there onwards, I was fortunate to actually join a company called Stazilla, which attempted to be the Airbnb of India. Over there too, I was in the analytics department, and that actually helped me a lot to understand uh, e-commerce, the startup world as well as the e-commerce world. I
Okay.
honestly didn't think much. I never bothered much about
So
how well
in
funded this
247,
company is.
you were not part of the e-commerce analytics, right? It was in the
No,
stage
yeah,
that
definitely
you.
not.
Okay.
Yes, yes. It's a B2B organization. So I was in analytics, but since it was a B2B organization, it was more of client facing role. So you take products. So we had a product called chat 247 chat assist. You take that product and you deploy it on the websites of your clients. That client could be anyone, like Capital One or Bank of America, Target, anybody. So that was the role. So the role was more of project management deployment. And once you deploy, you ensure that the metrics are fine. So we have got metrics called customer satisfaction, what we call as CSAT. Then we have got metrics called average handle time. So the average handle time that a chat agent takes to resolve a particular call. So ensuring that the metrics are fine, they
Right.
don't deteriorate over a period of time. So that was the role.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, so
Okay.
so that's the thing.
Okay, so
So
then you
okay.
move to your
I
current
moved to
company,
Stazilla.
Ajio.
I moved to a company called Stazilla, which was actually my first exposure to e-commerce startup, as more importantly Indian startup. So and that's how it was limited data because it was a small organization. So my interview itself was like I was given data, I was given a set of data, and I was asked actually to do whatever I want to do with that. So then I, of course, you do the traditional part of converting data into metrics. I also
Right.
did that in the regular part, conversion rate, average bill value, how often does a customer come to your site, all those kinds of things,
Okay.
right? Zone, how is your hotel booking across zones, and repeat rate, and in the traditional metrics that we all do when data is thrown at us. I additionally did a few things in terms of I went to the site, I told what is good about the site, what's not good about the site, what should change about the site, and all of that. So probably the interviewer liked it because she had expected that I will only look at data, and she said she liked it because maybe I was the only one who just didn't look at data but looked at product perspective as well. So I was actually kind of interested in product from then onwards itself. So even now, that's also a keen interest of mine. And so then I ended up joining Stazilla, even though people advised me like, why are you going from Bangalore to Chennai? Who goes from Bangalore to Chennai? And you know why
Did you have
very well why
problem
people
joining
say
a
that.
startup? I mean, given that you were with a mid-sized company, like 247 was a
Mhm.
mid-sized company, and then from there
Mhm.
you moved to a startup. What
Mhm.
were the challenges initially?
So, well, honestly, maybe probably in for me, I think being ignorant was actually it helped me because I didn't really care much about the size of the startup. What is the run rate, how for how long this company can survive, about the funding and all of that. I didn't think much about it. Maybe because today we think a lot about all that. Probably the age factor also makes us think on that lines. You're more experienced when you've got family responsibility and all that. So that was, I think, that 2014. I was probably what 28 years.
Yeah.
So I really didn't think much about anything. So that actually helped me. I just got into it, and then moving on to new city, a different work culture and all of that. But
Right.
I'll tell you first. I'll probably, since you asked about challenges, I'll talk about challenges. Of course, yes, moving into a new setup was challenging. Going to a company where where there was just a database, but nothing more than that was challenging. So
Right. Right.
you have to go there, you have to start giving insights, you have to analyze things, you have to help people look at data. All those kinds of things was actually challenging because
Right.
when you just have a database, it's like someone other dimension is like select something from a table which you don't know anything about,
Right.
where I know nothing about. So I think those challenges were there. Then you start looking at data, and then you kind of make sense of it, and then you hope that you make sense of it, and then you kind of start reporting it. You tell people what's happening. You give people insights. You tell people what needs to change, and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So that was the initial part of it, and then of course team was built, and then uh, you know then dashboards were created using an app called Art Shiny, and then there were other systems which gradually were introduced like Kibana, then Amplitude, then a system called Mixpanel was introduced. That is more of an analytics tool. Then we got into A/B test using tools like Optimizely and VW and all of that.
You have worked
Right. So
with
that was.
like small company, like you have worked with 247, which is a mid-sized company, then Reliance, your current company, I would say is somewhat bigger than that, and then you also worked with a very small startup. Um, so, what are the differences that you see in these three types of companies? I'm asking you from the perspective of the work that's being done in the analytics team.
Okay, so fundamentally, I would say, um, look, I think the approach I think is largely similar. So that being, people are looking at numbers and trying to take decisions, and then after taking those decisions, they want to see if the numbers have changed, right? I mean, if it is revenue, you hope the revenue to increase. If it is cost, you hope the cost to decrease. And then, of course, you look at your ratings and all of that, your app ratings, your NPS, and see if it has improved. So fundamentally, across all companies, that approach is the same, right? But I think what actually differentiates between companies is the culture. I think every company has different culture, and culture plays an important role. I also think that when a company is very small, it's very important
Mm-hmm.
that the leadership needs to set up the culture, the cultural aspects well.
Right.
What I think is more important, based on, as I said, based on my experience of large and small organizations, is
Mm-hmm.
that I think more than people, processes are very important. I think processes are very critical, and it is actually processes which, in the long term, will ensure your survival, and not people. So having your vision, having your missions, and spending time on strategy. I think it's important leadership spends time on strategy, and it's more important that leadership communicates the strategy.